Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reeder with Future Pastimes. I'm a game designer and I'm a big fan of the party game Werewolf. And I've created my own version of Werewolf that is based on the TV show Lost. It's called Lost, Live Together, Die Alone. And Werewolf, in case you don't know, it's a social deduction game, generally for a large group of people. So you're divided basically into two teams, the villagers and the werewolves, and there's usually only a couple of werewolf players. And you have a day phase where everybody is talking and discussing and trying to read the other people. And eventually you have a vote to determine who you might think is a werewolf and eliminate them. And if the villagers eliminate all of the werewolves, then their team wins. After your day phase, everybody closes your eyes. And then the werewolves open their eyes and silently select a villager player to eliminate. And when everybody opens their eyes, that villager is identified and they are eliminated. And the werewolves win if they eliminate a certain number of villagers. That's dependent on the number of players overall. So with Lost, Live Together, Die Alone, what you have actually is one team are the Losties. And it's your characters you expect to see. So you have Jack, you have Walt, you have Kate, Locke, Boone, Shannon, Sawyer, Hurley, and Claire comprise the starting group of Losties. And then you have Ben, who is the sole other. And that's for 10 players and a moderator. And in this situation, what you're trying to do is if the others, who is starting off, it's just Ben, they are trying to abduct Jack and Walt. And when these characters are abducted in the night phase, that player in the day phase reveals their role, but they are not eliminated. And in fact, they still participate in the game. But if the others have managed to abduct both of them while Ben has not been captured, then the others win. So the Losties win if they have captured Ben and all of the others. Now, you're only going to start with one, especially if it's in a 10-player game. If you get to over 10 players, there are certain other cards, and they are numbered. So this would be your 11th player, who would be another one of the others. That's Ethan. Then you would add in Sun and Jin, Saeed, Alex, another one of the others. Then you get Charlie. You get Tom, one of the others. You get Michael. You get Rose, Juliet, Danny. You get Arts, Mikhail, Nikki, and Paulo. But there is also a separate deck of cards that is called the Purge deck. And the Purge deck has a number of other roles in it. And it is a mixture of Losties. You'll recognize characters from the tail section, as well as Desmond, who, of course, is in the hatch. And then additional others like Richard and Goodwin and some of the other ones there. And then a third team, the Frades. And that's Naomi, Lapidus, Miles, Charlotte, Faraday, and Kimi. And they have their own agenda. They are also trying to capture Ben. But at that point, they just need to capture Ben. And so the way the Purge deck works is if a player other than Ben, Jack, and Walt gets captured or abducted, they're going to discard their roll, and they're going to draw a random roll from the Purge deck. And those all have a little P icon at the bottom to let you know they're Purge deck, whereas your starting cards have a Dharma icon, and then your additional rolls have the numbers. And if you don't have any of these, you are going to shuffle them into the Purge deck. And so players may start the game as a Lostie like Kate, but if they get captured, they're going to draw another roll, and they may end up changing teams. So like, now I'm Bonnie, and now I'm trying to win by helping Ben. And that, for me, was an interesting dynamic to play around with. So there is really no player elimination. There are ways for other players to free Ben. If he gets captured, he could get away, and certain roles have special abilities. So Ben, for instance, his special ability is that once per game, while you are not captured, you can switch roles with one of the others. So as soon as another player enters the game, every time there's a night phase, the moderator will call for the others to open their eyes and find each other. And at the start, there will just be Ben. unless you're adding 11 or more players. So once there are more than one others characters in the game, Ben will be able to go, okay, you are. And some suspicion may have been falling on Ben up to that point, so he can switch roles with another player, and if they get captured, then they'll reveal their role, but they won't have captured Ben, which is kind of the point. So, of course, that player will draw a new role, and they may end up becoming one of the new Losties, and they now have information. They know exactly where Ben is, and then the next night phase, Ben will know that that person is not one of the others. So it could go very poorly for Ben if he does switch the roles. So normally you want to be able to wait until maybe there's a couple of them so that that player can switch as well if they need to. But in any case, it can speed the game up when you get them in there. And that's one of the reasons why you have the Fradies in there, because they make for a third team. There's also a Rousseau character who's not on any team, and she has her own objective. If she can finish the game without being purged, along with Alex. So Alex needs to enter the game, and then both of them need to not get captured or abducted, and then they actually supersede the win for themselves once the game ends. If Locke gets purged, then you are actually going to shuffle in a fourth team, and that is the Agirans. Now, there's only the 3 Agirans, but you will also add in Jacob, who, again, is not really on a team. So if the Jacob player gets their role, they'll be shuffled in once Locke gets purged. This person is going to win on their own, and that's when the purge deck is exhausted. So they're in it for the long haul. But as Agirans enter in, they win if Jacob wins. So he could end up on a team, but not necessarily, because the Agirans could all get purged as well. And then there are some special roles. If you are playing with 25 people, you're going to add in a Cerberus role, and that's the smoke monster. You'll add in Christian, who is a ghost, but he counts as one of the Losties. You add in Aaron and Vincent as well as playable characters, but they all have special abilities and some of the other special ones. So like in the classic game of Werewolf, you have the Seer, and Locke acts as kind of the seer. So each night, Locke will have an opportunity to learn whether somebody that they identify secretly is one of the Losties or an other. And then if that person's role is a Frady or another, or one of the special characters or an Agiran, they'll all just register as other. So Locke will get some information, and they want to try to keep themselves in the game for as long as possible because, again, it will prevent certain other roles from showing up and can help the Losties to win by getting that crucial information to them if they can do it in a way that's covert. And that's kind of the fun of Werewolf, is that certain characters will have information, but they don't want to be so obvious about what they know or how they've learned it. You're trying to pretend that it's just instinct and that you're reading people because the others are watching, and if they suspect they know who Locke is, they're going to eliminate Locke by abducting him. But for instance, Sun and Jin, once they're added to the game, they get to identify each other, and the moderator will keep track of who is. They'll actually draw the roles so that they know which roles are entering the game and how they're going to adjust things. But once you start drawing from the Purge deck, there's a little cheat sheet that I made that lets the moderator know, okay, I'm going to start by having Sun and Jin identify themselves. If they're both in the game, I will have the Fradies attempt to abduct somebody. I will have the others do their thing. So as the game goes on, the stakes get raised, and there's a little more that goes on that keeps things interesting. So that's basically it. It was just kind of a fun way to retheme Werewolf. I came up with this actually while Lost was still on the air. It was right before the last season, and so some of the stuff I should probably go back and change in light of what was learned in the final season of Lost, although it didn't really impact the game that much. But there's a few things that I could and may yet adjust. It's not a game that I play very often because it's been a few years since we've had 25 people over to play board games. But it's something that I'll start taking to conventions as I'm going to them again. And because there's always a chance. That's one of the ways that, I end up playing Werewolf is at conventions. There's usually several large groups that do that. So that's Lost, Live Together, Die Alone. The files are on Board Game Geek. They probably could stand to be updated again as I've matured as a game designer. I have revisited certain older things, and this is my excuse to force me to revisit Lost and tinker with the cards some more. So if you have suggestions after you check those out, be sure to let me know. And thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.